I'm going to be using Tiny Pandora's cuff bracelet kit to make these cuff bracelets to match the rest of the jewelry to go with these leftovers. And I'm going to make two different sizes. You get plexiglass forms to fit your reusable metal forms. So you bake it on this and you can take it off of this and reuse these. And these come in different sizes as well. And then she also has a bangle bracelet kit that doesn't have the opening and goes all the way around. So go to tinypandora.com and check those out. Real easy to use, as you'll see. I made from those scraps, and I have a video a couple of weeks ago on this one. It's easy how to do it, and you just put them down, and there's no really rhyme nor reason, just put them together. Some of them look Natasha because they are cut off the cane side by side, but I wasn't really going for that look. Now I'm going to put a piece of parchment paper on, and we'll take my burnishing tool, and I want these really smooth because I don't want them to crack, because this is going on the pink. And just burnish everything to where when you run your fingers over it, you don't feel any dips or anything. You can get the high spots off after you get it on the form, but just get it as smooth as possible. I'm going to use 2 forms on this one piece. I'm going to put them down. And I'm just going to cut out around them. And it may take a little bit because they have stuck down to the clay, so it may take a little bit to get it up. You just have to pry loose the section. And then I'm going to take off the extra clay. Now I've learned here recently, don't wad this up. Lay it out flat somewhere until you can get to it. We all have a habit of just balling it up when it's our extra clay, and sometimes that's okay and sometimes it's not, but if you're going to run it through a pasta machine again, you're going to have it flat anyhow, so you don't run your pasta machine. So I've tried to remember, which is hard for me to remember after all those years of just balling up the clay and putting it in a wad, but I try to remember just to set them out to the side and keep them flat. Because the more you mix these together, the more your colors are going to mix together. The more times it goes through a pasta machine, it's going to look more marbled than more, I don't know, this looks almost like psychedelic from the 60s. But it's a lot easier to work with again if you just try to keep it straight. Now I have my 2 different sizes. This one's a little bit wider than this one. And I believe this is the side I want to keep up. I've looked at both sides and I think I like this side a little bit better. And I've got my solid fuchsia pieces rolled out already. And these are rolled out on a number 2. And this, once you go over it with rollers, connecting everything together and burnishing it down, it sticks. So it's really thin. Let me get these straightened up. Get that connected back together. Straighten up the sides a little bit. Okay. And I can leave it like that, which I may do with this one, and then leave some pink on the outside edges of the larger one. Or do I? Let's leave some pink on this one. Just put my template on top of there and cut down through. Just something I thought when you're working with plexiglass things like our rollers or these templates or anything that you have that's plexiglass, don't clean it with alcohol. You can clean metal instruments like your blades of any kind in your forms. I do recommend washing your forms off, the metal ones, with some alcohol before you get started so you can get all the oils and stuff off of them from your fingers. And we'll take this one and lift it up. I'm just going to put it right on side of this form. These two came apart a little bit. I'm going to gently roll over it with my cane bender. Straighten that back up. And I realize there's more pink on one side than the other, but it's going to have to stay that way for now. Or I can either cut it all off and make a thinner bracelet. because I didn't get it on there straight. We just may cut that off. This form. Now this is a much smaller bracelet. This is one of the small ones. And you just lay it on there and make sure it's touching it. Then I'm just going to cut it off. And I cut it. Let me get this side cut off so you can see the other side as well. I just cut it right off at the edge there on both ends. Now this form happens to have a curved end on it, so it's not sharp. So I like to do that. Otherwise, sometimes it can get caught on clothing or anything if it's sticking out there a little bit. And then just run your blade around the whole thing to where it fits right on there. Just take off your excess clay there. Just lay my blade right flush with the form and go right around it. Hold it straight so you don't dome it down in, unless you're working on a bracelet that would do that. Get my other little corner over here. Okay, this one is ready to bake. You can see the solid pink underneath it. I'm going to bake this, and it'll all be cured. And then I've got blue clay I'm going to roll out. After I take this layer off of the form, put liquid clay on it, and then I'm going to put the back on it in blue, and I'll do a texture on that one. But that's how simple this is. This one is actually ready to bake, and you saw how long it took me to do it. Okay, let's work on this second one, and it's not any different. I'll lift up this strip first. And see, this is rolled out to what would probably equal, oh, I don't know, a 6 or 7 on my Atlas 180. This one's still rolled out on a number 2. Let's see. This one's cut the same width as that one. Do I want it to go any smaller? Yeah. I think I will cut this one smaller so we'll have pink showing on top of the bracelet. just got to work on getting it on there straight. So I'm actually going to pick this one up and turn it over. That's a more straight edge. Lay it right on my work surface. That's why I love working with these grids. And I'm going to lay that right there on my 1/4 inch thing going over to see if I can't keep this lined up with that template and get it on there straight. Now that worked. That's on there straighter. Okay, let's take the big template and cut this one out. Cleaning up my edges a little bit. I'll tell you what, I'm over this pink and blue clay. I didn't realize how much I made to begin with, and I've made a lot of things out of it. You've seen it. But it's time for it to go on now. I'll move this down a little bit because I'm not sure how long that bracelet is. I know it's not this long. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. Okay, I'm going to make sure that this is down. Just going to lightly roll over it. Pick it up. Start at one end of my form. And take it around. Make sure it's on there before I go cutting anything. I don't want it to come loose when I'm cutting and get it all out of whack. I'm known for doing that. Getting things out of whack. In fact, I hear, Lucy, you have some explaining to do quite often. And I answer back with, my name's not Lucy. Okay, that's all there is to this one. This one's ready to bake as well. So in that short amount of time, we have two with different looks. I'll put blue on the back of this one as well, and these will be finished. So let me get these in the oven, and I'll be back in a little while. It's time for a commercial break. We're going to take a break from making our bracelets while we've got those in the oven, and I'm going to make some stud earrings. I rolled out my my fuchsia again. I rolled it out on a number 2. You can tell that I use this texture sheet a lot. I put my clay on top of my texture sheet and press the clay into it. That way I can see where I'm going, see where I've been. And if I can't see the design coming through on this side of the clay, then that means I may not have a really good impression on the other side. If you take your roller and roll over this, a lot of times you get a shadow effect because the clay will move on top of your sheet and you won't be able to see it. And then when you remove your clay, you see a double image there that's just slightly off and really didn't look too cool. So I just press down as hard as I can, because if we're going to make stud earrings, we have to make them all in at one time and bake them all at one time. Okay, so here's the texture on my texture sheet. And I'm just going to lay it down. And again, I took the scraps from what was left after the bracelet, and I put them down and sliced it like I showed you in the video. I think I need to go over this a little bit more. I think I burnished this one down. So let's get this one burnished real quick. Now let's move this till we get our earrings cut out. I think we're going to cut those out first. And you sandwich your post in between the front and the back. Again, these are rolled out fairly smooth. I'll run my rod over them just a minute. This is from the cane bender set, another caning tool set. And you know, people that work in clay and then have products made because it worked for them and they want to share it with us. We have a lot of people in our polymer clay community like that, and I prefer to shop with my friends, and because most of them are in polymer clay and they know what works and what doesn't. You know, Amazon doesn't know what works and what doesn't. So if it's something you can get from one of your clay friends, get it from them. It helps them out and it'll help you out because you'll know that that will do what it's supposed to do. Okay, we'll lay a piece. This is press and seal. And I want to make a brooch out of this, or something. A long brooch, I think, is what this one's going to be. Let me get my acrylic block. That way you can get even pressure all the way down. And some plastic cutters are not as sharp as the metal ones. But this will give me a beveled edge. It's harder to get through on the saran wrap or anything, but I want that beveled edge. Okay, and got some small little cutters that I've had for several years, and I always seem to forget about them. Let's see if we can get one of these circles here. And these will be the earrings. There's that one. I kind of like this shape. It'll give me a place to hang a dangle on. the sheet. I'm just going to run over it with my knife. Make sure they're all cut clean. They seem to be. Okay, let's get a smaller blade to get these pieces out. Just going to run my fingers around them. Get those edges smoothed. I think I'm going to do a brooch this way and hang some dangles off of it. I think that would look cool. Brooches seem to really be in again. You know, the more you smooth now and get these things smooth, the least amount of sanding you'll have to do. And I'd much rather smooth out while they're raw than to sand them after they're cured. Okay, I've got some earring posts here. And I'm going to take my cutters and it doesn't matter to me what design's on the back of these. Move these over a little bit. Okay, I need 2 of these. And I didn't put the press and seal or saran wrap on these. And I need 2 of these. And I need 1 of these. And I still can't believe I've got leftovers. But I do, and I don't wad this up either. It takes longer to flatten it out and get it back through the pasta machine. So I've learned not to wad that up as I go too, which I normally did, but I've sort of stopped doing that now. It takes more time. My hands don't work well, so. Okay. When I take my stud, let me zoom in a little bit. This is the front of my earring, so I'm going to turn it over, and I will take my stud, and I will place it right in the back. And I'm pressing it in the upper part rather than the center because this is how they'll sit on the ear. But you just sort of eyeball the center there and put it in and press it down. Okay, then you take the backing you just made. Here's my backing. And you line them up and press it down. Make sure there isn't any air underneath there. It's raw clay to raw clay, so it's going to hook and stay together. And you now have embedded the metal post into the 2 layers of clay. Just make sure right around where the post came through there isn't any bubbles. Okay, another way you can do this, and this way is actually easier, I think. I've got my piece, I've got my design on the back. I will take my earring stud and I will push it through the back about right where I want it. And I will put it on the inside that's going up against the other piece. Then I will take my other piece and flip it to the front, line it up, and put it on. Now I'm going to take a little bit of one of my silicone tip tools and just smooth the edges a little bit, just to more blend them together than anything. Okay, let's check these edges. See, it just smooths them a little bit. And you don't have to put any liquid clay under these to connect them, because they're going to bake together, and it's raw clay to raw clay, so it's going to hold. Front side, and hook it on there. Just make sure the air bubbles are out. Now you can, or you don't have to, you can put something to bring this, some sort of surface treatment to bring out your design on the back. If I was going to do anything, I probably would use Inca Gold, because it will bake on there. I do it on raw clay, and it would bake on there, and it would be permanent, because I don't like putting any sort of sealant or resin on the back of earrings, because this is right up against somebody's earlobe, and I couldn't wear it. I have a reaction to things like that, so I couldn't wear that. Okay, so there's that pair. And here's this pair. I don't think I have a tie tack to put this on. Let me get a pin back to put this on, and I'll be back and we'll do it, and then I'll bake everything. Okay, let's continue on here in our commercial. This is an Apple stamp, and that's how I sign my work. So before I do anything else with this, I'm going to put my apple right here. And I will put it on all the rest of this jewelry, or anything else that I make. Right there's my little apple, and that design had a hollow space in it that it wasn't very deep. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a tie tack, my tie tack backing. And if you look real closely, I think you can see, let me get it where you can see it, there's a little pointed tab right there. And you need to cut that off. just use your wire cutters and cut it off and don't flip it in your eye. So I'm going to add this in the center, and I could have used some of the other type of backing. There's a pin back that has a clasp on it, but I need this part to stick out. So right there is about my center, and we'll do it the same way I did the earrings with the studs. I can get this little thing is so little, but it works so well. I'm going to put it down in my clay, just like I did the back of the earring. And here is the post sticking out. That's what is going to hook to this part after you have it baked. So we'll turn it back over because this is where my design's going. And I will pick up my design. And we'll put it right on there. And gently press it down. Make sure there's no air bubbles and make sure that little thing's sitting up straight. And since it's so small, I'm just going to take my tweezers and press around it a little bit to give it a little bit of extra snug there. And I'm not sure what I'm going to hang on this yet or how many. I think I will put it one way or the other, and it'll be dominant of which way it'll go. And I'll add some holes later and hang some charms on it or something. And do some chain. Now if you're a little bit over with your backing like I am right here, just take your X-Acto knife and carefully trim around that. Then just brush your edges smooth. Get all those little bits of clay off. Sticking out here a little bit. I'll cut that off. Okay, and this is ready to bake. Now we'll go back to the main feature of this tutorial. Commercial's over. Just want to jump back in here real quick before I get these in the oven. I had this much of the pink, blue, and white clay left, and I wanted to use it so I can get done with this pink, white, and blue clay. So I made a Christi Friesen heart. And you just start out with a circle, take it into a pear shape, and she's got videos on how to do it, but they're just really simple and cool, and you can add anything to them. I added a decorative jump ring as a hook on the top, and I used a large one because I just thought this was a larger looking piece, and I thought that would be cool. And all this time I hadn't even touched a gemstone or bling or anything, which is not like me. I love it. So I happen to have a pink marquise shaped stone and clear crystals, and I put them in and I stuck them in with Gem Sticky, which is a permanent UV bonding agent from Tiny Pandora. It is a game changer. She now has it in a liquid and a solid, and it's just fantastic. It holds anything to anything. But I just put that in there. It's a UV product. I made my hole in my indention with my stones, and then I put my Gem Sticky in there, put my stone back in, and set it under the UV light for about 90 seconds. And it's a permanent bond. It's clear. It makes its own bezel around the stone and holds them in. So now this is ready to bake in the oven, but I just wanted to show you this before I put it in the oven to bake it. Okay, we're going to put the backs on our bracelets. Our bracelets are baked and cooled. I've already had this cuff out, so that's why it slid out so easily. And it is shiny a little bit on the inside, and that comes from the metal. Now this one I haven't taken off the form yet, but it too is going to slide right off. If it doesn't, just take a little edge or an edge of your blade or an X-Acto craft knife and just break the seal a little bit, and that'll work. Now this one is the one that has a trim on it, and this one doesn't have any trim on it. So I'm going to put the blue backs on them, and I've already cut out with the template that matches this bracelet from the kit, and I've cut a strip of blue, and we'll put that in here. And it's rolled out on a number 2. So this was rolled out on a number 3, no, a number 2, the pink, and then it has the overlay over top of it. It's still real thin, but these bracelets do not have to be real thick. But more than likely they will need a clasp to help hold them on here, because the longer you wear them and your body heats up, if they're a little bit big anyhow, they're going to be that much bigger when they heat up and the clay gets a little bit heated. So plan on putting a clasp on it of some sort, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. I'm just going to cut the back for the other piece, the other bracelet. Why didn't you cut there? There you go. And this is cornflower blue souffle that I'm using as the blue. And I'm trying not to wad up so much my scraps. I can take my thumbs and flatten them down so it'll go through my pasta machine easier next time I use it. So I've got both sizes of the bracelet backs cut out. Now at this point, or before you cut them out, you can texturize them, you can silk screen them, you can do just about anything you want on there, but if you put a surface treatment, you're going to have to seal it. And I don't like to seal my jewelry on the side where the skin's going to be. Some people just have an allergic reaction to them. So I don't try to put anything on the back. And if I do, and I can use Inca Gold does not have to be sealed after it's put on and baked. So that's a lot of ways I get my design in. Okay, I went on and finished the smaller one. I'm letting the liquid clay sit up a little bit before I go around and make sure all my edges are trimmed off, because I wanted to see the pattern and the pink and the blue going around the edge. So it will be cut off flush. You can roll your top layer over to your bottom layer if you don't want like that pink to show, if you don't want your base to show in there. So let me do the same thing with this one. This is just liquid clay. And I keep this metal straw in my bottle so I can stir it up as I use it. And we're just going to put it all over the back of this bracelet. And we're doing it because this is baked clay to raw clay. And it needs a binder in there. This bigger one may be quicker if I use my finger. Yes, I'd say so. Just make sure you get it out to the ends and on the edges. Just a thin layer, you don't need a lot. If it gets too slippery, you can't get your backing on correctly without a hassle. Okay, all my liquid clay is in there. And we'll lift up. You can do any backing on these. You can do a texture. You can do a silk screen. You can paint on it. I mean, any technique or anything you can put in there. I prefer not to put something with a surface treatment because personally I don't put surface treatments that need to be sealed where my jewelry is going to touch someone's skin. You don't know if there's an allergic reaction because I have reactions to some things, and I just prefer that if I don't put anything on there, then nobody's going to have a reaction. Okay, let me cut this off. And the corners off. And we'll pull this back just a little bit, the back layer. And I had a little bit of problems with my camera and I didn't catch this part on film, but I can explain it to you just as easily. I talked earlier about putting a clasp on your bracelet. And this is just little bails. Real tiny ones. It's so tiny I don't even know where that one went. But it slipped away. And I put these in between. Let me go in a little bit. In between the layer that was baked, the pink layer, and the blue layer that I just put on there. And you just put them in, and I put them to where they sit coming out towards the inside of the bracelet. It seems like they fit better that way. And those are done with liquid clay because you've got your liquid clay on your back layer. And you just slide them in there, press your clay down, take a rubber tool or something and make sure that you have all of the air out and you don't have any gaps up here on your ends. And I did the same thing to this one. This one has them as well. After they're baked, I will put jump rings on them. And I like using the oval ones. If you just have the round ones, go on and use those. The oval ones don't seem to come apart as easily. So I use the oval ones. And then I'm going to put enough jump rings to where I can comfortably put the toggle clasp. This side goes on one side, this side goes on the other, and then your bar goes through your circle. That's how those work, and it's easy to do with one hand. The only thing that this one needs now is my apple stamp. Here's my apple stamp, and we're going to stamp it right here in the center. If I had a texture on here, I would try to put it in a place where the texture is not as prominent and maybe a flat spot. So now, always sign what you do, people. Make you a signature or something. Mine's easy, it's an apple. I'm just going to run my blade right around the top and take off any extra. And I probably will put deep shine on the front side of these. And you can see how flexible this is. The blue is not baked, so it may not be quite as flexible as it is now. But my layers are thin, so that means it's going to be flexible enough. And let me get this off of here real quick. And I want to share a little trick with you. A lot of people's bracelets are really hard and not flexible. Or they're not quite as flexible as these are. But the trick to wearing a cuff bracelet is when you put it on and take it off, take your open end and slide it over your wrist. That way you're not pulling back on it to get it on your wrist down front ways. You'd have to open it up, and over time that bracelet's going to crack where you've opened it up so many times. Now this is where I'll have to put my jump rings and my toggle clasp. And you see that's not very much. This bracelet is my size bracelet. The other one's a little bit small for me. To take it off, put your opening on the side and gently pull it off. And that way it will not break. After these are baked, I will take my sanding disc from Tiny Pandora, which is fabulous because it's a disc with sandpaper attached to it. And you can just take your piece and rub it around the sandpaper and get all your sides nice and even because it's laying flat as you do it. So I'll do that to both of them. And this is the end of this video. The next one coming out is every single thing finished. All the jewelry and everything. It won't be near as long as this one. I didn't mean for this one to be this long, but I'm going to put in the description the times of each section. So if you don't want to watch the whole video, you can go in the description and look and see where I make the different things, all from the same leftover clay, and just watch those parts. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. This is it. This is the final one on there. Give me some ideas on what you'd like to see next. Happy crafting, you all. Blessings.